Greetings, this is Trish for HMP TV. Just letting you know that we're out here for the community, lots of resources and information here for you.
This is Paul from the Money Mob and I support HMP TV. That's right.
My name's DJ Supreme and I support HMP TV.
Amazing site with amazing content. We talk about politics, economics. Right tonight we're talking about Black Love, so make sure you subscribe and sign up to HMP TV.
We're here for the Black Love event. We're here to support our communities. Make sure that you show up and show out on our social media.
Okay, this is Paul from the Money Mob and I'm here supporting Black Love. All right, all the time, all right.
Wow, what can I say? Black Love. It's been an amazing event this evening. So much information shared, so much love in the room. Big up to Dean and Iola from the Thursday Club. We need more of these events. If you don't know about the Thursday Club, check them out on Facebook. Black Love Matters. I love you all.
Yeah, it's Justin, reporting from the Black Love event, What can I say? It was very informative. I found it to be, very interesting because I believe in Black Love, and it's good to see, Black Love thriving and still strong, especially in this society that we're living in right now. So, keep promoting these kind of events and let's all come together,
It was an absolute honour and a privilege to be surrounded by so much Black Love. The couples that were on the panel, they basically dropped so many nuggets. For me, what I'm going to take home is the importance of vision and leaving a legacy for your children's children, So it's not all about just meeting somebody and just because they're good looking or you're attracted to them. It's not about emotions. It's bigger than that. It's deeper than that. And for me, that's what I'm going to take away from that. I believe in Black Love, and there was so much Black Love in abundance tonight. So guys, get out, come and support more of these Black Love events.
Yeah, reporting from Brixton, Yeah,
we're good. I was walking around asking some people some questions earlier on as everyone gets back to their seats. And one question came up saying, okay, we can find them, we can get them, but how do we keep them? How do we keep these men that we want in our lives? And the other question was, if there's 65%, Dr. Val, if there's 65% of women single, what percentage is men?
Well, that says a lot, isn't it? I didn't do my research. I think that says quite a lot. I mean, some stats say about 45 to maybe 45% of black men marry outside of their race. The rest of them are imprisoned and incarcerated or mental health institutions. When you look at all the stats, it actually is it marries up quite nicely. Well, not nicely, but you know what I mean. Nicely for me, doing research, it tallies, yeah. My husband's a mathematician, so numbers man. So, yeah, so I think your question is going to be like, well, where are the men? Exactly, where are the men? And that is why, spirituality is a very important component of this. Now, this movement to create a new narrative, look at me taking the thing. Shall I say? Let me just say this. This movement to create a new narrative will not everybody's going to buy into it, right? Not everybody's going to buy into it. It's going to take time. But those women who buy into it will experience, and those men who buy into it, those of us who care for our children and are committed to it, will see immediate short-term and long-term changes in their lives. And part of that change, for women who want to be partnered, they will see that men will be drawn into their lives, and men like their fathers, their brothers, their cousins, and also somebody to love. Because it's statistics, really, because not everybody's going to be buying into it. The few that will start the first wave will get, it's a bit like Amway or, pyramids. When you start something new, then a lot of people they're drawn to it. It's that kind of thinking. But because this is based on a narrative, changing our imaginations, there'll just be waves and it will just increase. We've got to bring it down from 65%. We've got to, because that is really pathological. All right? We have to all be committed to that. I'll shut up now.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to delve into 2 questions that I've been asked to moderate. So the first question is to our panel. What role, you don't have to press a buzzer or anything, what role does marriage play within the Black community? And is marriage still important? And if so, to what extent?
I think marriage is our last best chance to grow up together. It's a great discipline. Yeah.
Greetings, everyone. I think for me, and I know my wife has spoken about personal circumstances and the way that, you know, we've grown up as individuals. And for me, marriage was always something that, strange enough, was actually quite normal. The issue for me, and it goes back to, I think, what Paul had said, was actually finding out what love was. Because I grew up at a time where marriage was an institution and you had people who actually stayed together for years. However, within those relationships, you had a lot of abuse. You had a lot of disadvantage. You had a lot of trauma. And for me, I saw a lot of that. So whilst I grew, my mum raised me with my father not being there. It was a case of, whilst I always knew I wanted to be married, I had no input as to what that would actually look like in terms of building legacy, and I had no input as to what a loving marriage would be. And that, coupled with the whole journey of being a man or wanting to be a man or wanting to be a good man and not having that role model or mentor within my life, I think you're talking about journeys, personal journeys, Amin was saying. And I think we could have only found ourselves when we got to the point that we were actually ready for that commitment. So when we're looking at marriage and whether or not I think it's needed, yes, if you are thinking about building a legacy, and that's what we actually came to have that discussion about. But it's also having that understanding that in any legacy, in any building, you have the build part, but you have the destroy part as well. And there were some aspects of my personality that I really had to take a deep, painful look at and to see, okay, do I want to carry this forward? Because as rightfully, I think when you were talking about epigenetics and the trauma, and I think the culture that we often pass to our children, they don't really listen to what we say. They see what we do. So for me, I was dealing with issues of within the family, things of incest, issues regarding masculinity and matriarchy, issues of separation, issues of non-identification. We had a conversation actually about how open we're going to be, and we said, I think for the benefit of the community is to be as open as possible. So for us, whilst we were building the legacy of saying we are going to be black first, and that was always within our narrative, that actually cost a lot of our connections with our family, because we decided that we were going to build first for the community and for what we saw as our future. And so I think it's important, if you are thinking about this as a journey, to be honest in terms of what development that we all need to go through, because, you know, we all should be humble in that. You know, none of us are perfect, none of us come perfect, but all of us should be able to take on the journey and to say, yes, this is what my trod is going to be. So I will say, in terms of love, happily still discovering different levels of love, I think, as you go through. And we're the newbies, right? So we still got the 15, 20, 25 years to go. But I happily can say that I love my wife deeply and differently and continually. But it's a growing love. It's not necessarily the exact same love that I had when we just first met and we're all doing those questions and answers and stuff. It's that deep commitment and sacrificial love that we've put blood in the water and we know what we're going to get out of it because we've made that sacrifice. So, yeah, I think in terms of the institution of marriage, you really have to look deeply in terms of if this is what we're about, you know, make that commitment and stand by that, because that's what it is. Yeah, I'll pass it on.
I would echo a lot of what Rodney said. For me, it's about nation building, and that starts with family first, obviously spreading out into the community. So I would say that self-love wants you to be with someone else that reflects you. I didn't see that enough when I was growing up, and I had to, I suppose I had that ideal in my head of I'm not going to carry on the same legacy as what has been given to us. So we made a commitment. I just want to touch earlier on what we spoke about, because Amin was saying that he doesn't think that we really thought about certain things that affected us when we were young. I know I did. And I think he did subconsciously, but he probably didn't realise it. You know, we saw the struggles of our people, we saw the struggles of our parents, and we committed from a young age that we're going to do this together. It wasn't just at the wedding, we'd already made that commitment. And yeah, it is about committing. It is seeing your vision, seeing what you want for your family, and living that through how you act.
Just on another note as well, I think marriage, I'm slightly different on one aspect. I'm not sure if marriage is for everybody. I'm going to be honest. And so therefore, I think for those who make that move, I use an example of having friends of the family who were together for 18 years and then got married, and it lasted for 3. And it made me just question and think, they could have been married for all of that time because they were together. And it's about that commitment that you've made with somebody. Some people run from the idea of being legally bind to someone, which don't make no sense to me. But I get it. I get it in regards to if that's the reason that you're putting forward as not wanting to do that, then that's fine. But that companionship and that collective, trying to do something and building something by yourself is a lot harder. If you have 2 people that are trying to do something, it makes it a lot easier. Paying bills, having a vision, having someone to bounce your ideas off. It's so important to have that other person to be able to do that with. And so therefore, marriage can be seen as that vehicle that allows you to move to that space. But I also think it's just general about us as a people in regards to making a commitment, whether it's business, when you're making that commitment to say we are doing something together, and regardless of the disagreement and the angles, we are going to make this work for the broader reasons, you know. So, as I said, I'm not sure if marriage is actually for everybody, but I do think that nation building, as my wife has said, nation building becomes so important when you then start taking things seriously. Touching upon what you said, legacy. Now it's a matter of, well, if you're having a legacy, what name is that going to be in then? You know, and sometimes that becomes really important. Sometimes we don't realize that in 100, 200 years, your name is what is going to be left. You know, so be mindful of what you're leaving and what legacy you're leaving behind, you know, so, yeah.
Paul, did you want to say something?
Okay, just so much truths here today. I just really talk about one of my experiences because I'm like the only boy. I've got 5 sisters. So I want to go down a journey of what values are. So I've got 5 sisters. I was brought up being a young man that was given everything. I was spoiled. The only thing that I remember from that being spoiled as a child with my father, and some of his last words were that if you want a woman, pay for it and move on. Don't get involved with women. That was one of the last words I remember in his life when he was alive. And that was one of the values that he had as a father, was that he wasn't going to get, I mean, we're talking about domestic violence. He was married twice, never worked out. Very, very difficult man to live with. So in my earlier years, and this is why I'm going to say marriage isn't for everybody. Marriage definitely wasn't for me based on what I had seen. Marriage became right for me when I made a decision not to be like him. And I made a commitment, not only to Terry, but way before I met Terry, I made a commitment to myself that any woman or any relationship I was in was going to be a relationship based on values, and I was going to not, one of my key values was not to be like this man. I've got 5 sons now, 1 daughter, 4 grandchildren, right? And I have been in their lives, and literally, if they ask me about my dad, I don't tell them that part. I only tell them what they need to know. So I know that by having a model of the world, which represents what you want, you do get those things like long-term marriages. They do happen, but if you start thinking about, it's about accountability, is what I'm saying. Because at any point during my relationship, I could have walked away. At any point, and I'm telling you, it's easier sometimes to walk away. The hardest thing you can do in a marriage, and you know, is to sit there when somebody who knows your soul is telling you about your soul. And they're telling it to you in such a way, it's the truth. They're telling you that you got Johnny Matter in your eye. You got it in your eye. This is what this woman does for me. Nothing is easy about this relationship. This relationship is right because I know that I'm a wretch. And I know that this woman here understands how I work. And when she sees the plank in my eye, she looks at me and she doesn't sugarcoat it. She says to me, fix up. And if she hadn't said this to me all these years, I know exactly how I would have come. I would not have been in my boys' lives. I would not have had a long-term relationship, and I would definitely not have been married for this long. I would have been one of those people that repeated what I saw my father do. So that's, to me, what a marriage is. It's about knowing that that person who you're with, it's not the easiest person. You know, because I've been in relationships where I was allowed to stay out 2-3 nights. Just go do your thing. And it was a long-term relationship. And then it was me that left that relationship because I said to myself, this can't be right. Because you're not challenging me enough. You're not telling me where I'm going wrong. How can you be telling me? And I'm not kidding you. 2 or 3 nights. I used to go on these weekends. Yeah, go. And then I took that for granted for a couple of years. And then I said, no, this is not. I'm going to end up like my dad. What I want is somebody in my life who tells me, check yourself. And that's this woman here.
But can I ask?
Sure.
Thank you. But can I ask, and all of you have touched upon this actually, about legacy and building up and combining your individual families and building community. Isn't marriage more than just emotional? It's about a contract of building. And so are you approaching this from a different perspective in regards to, yes, we are attracted to each other. Yes, we have shared values, but also you're thinking about future generations and what does that really mean? So is it that we are approaching marriage from a different perspective? Have you?
Look, the other day, last year sometime, I was doing shopping, right? And somebody came up to me and said, I see pictures of you and your wife. And immediately I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And then I literally stood there and said, what do you mean? Explain what you mean. And they said, you don't realize that we don't see these images enough. You see a man who has an account, you won't see them show, there's no togetherness in images. And he said, by you posting those images makes me want to go on and be a better person. And then he paid for my shopping. So, I don't know, there's some good in it somewhere. Didn't do the shopping bit, no.
Does anyone else want to touch on that?
Thank you. I think for us, and some people find this quite calculated, going back to what Dr. Valerie was saying about Dr. Boyce Watkins and talking about financial lovemaking, the first order of business is the family. So this is business. Yes, we love each other. Yes, we wouldn't want to be with anybody else, but it's the big business of creating a family, creating a foundation, and not just creating a foundation, digging out the dirt to replace what was never there. So that in generations, like our little one, he's 5. He's always talking about, when I get married, when I get married, when I get married. And even the elder one, even though the relationship didn't work out between myself and his father, he is now married. So our eldest son has seen people that had functional relationships after they had difficult ones. So this is very much what are we building? What are we leaving? and the whole kind of love and attraction thing, yes, that is there. That is secondary. I believe that the worst basis for relationships is attraction and whether you like each other. There are plenty of other people that we could have married, that we could have suitably been happy with. Not everyone you like, that you get on with, that you have a great relationship, is the person that you are meant to be with. There are some people that are for a reason, some people that are for a season, and some people that are for a lifetime. And we talk a lot about as a community, about a lot of the social ills that we have, knife crime, Dean mentioned earlier. There is a direct correlation between those social ills and family structures. The less support you have in the family home, the more you are likely to have those issues. And those issues are all rooted in economic factors. So when we talk about us as a people and how we are in the state that we're in all over the world, the issue is really about poverty. Now, it's not to say that there aren't two-parent households that are married that have difficult financial situations, but it is almost impossible to build anything strong, solid, that will last the test of time on your own. Because 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. 1 + 1 equals infinite unknown quantities and possibilities.
Just as a brief add-on, and just in terms of legacy, I think it's not just about the financial structure and the economic structure. It's an understanding that we're also building culture within our homes. And so it's the legacy of passing on the stories of triumph and overcoming and resilience. And I think last year when I was here, I was giving the talk about what politics is, and I had said that politics is quite personal. Because I mentioned the fact that I'm still living off the legacy that my grandmother had done way, way back and the choices that she had made. So I think when we're looking at the future and what we're building, yes, we are having that foundation in terms of, okay, yes, it's family first, but we're doing that to ensure that we are actually building something for them to stand on. Now, I'm not the expert on the Bible at all. I know there's some quote that says that a good man is somebody who leaves a legacy for at least, 3 generations? Children, right. And too often we don't see that publicly. I know there are many people who do that, but too often we don't see the stories and our children don't actually see that example. So we've been very intentional about wanting to build that example in terms of the opportunities for our own family. And also to talk about those legacies and those stories so we could pass those on. I think the last thing I normally say in terms of the choices that we make is that I'm very aware that I'm currently living my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren's past. So the very choices that I make today, whether I choose to do something or not, will have an impact on my children and my children's children and my children's children. Because it's about me being that rung in that ladder, and then so it's about us not breaking to ensuring that those future progenies fail because of the choices that we made or the choices that we chose not to make. And we're not strong enough to do that. I know, we know enough about ourselves and our histories and where we've come from to know that I do not have that power or that, want to have that spiritual ramification to say, oh, because you did not do something, this is why your grandchild is in this position. So I think is when we look at our intentionality in that kind of historical term, because we're a long-lived people, we're a historical people. And so I think when we're talking about even definitions about tradition and family and, what love is, we have to think about our cultural context and define it for our purposes. So yeah, that's it.
So can I just jump off of that actually? Do you think we should start looking at arranged marriages for our children?
I'm going first. Yes. Yeah. My children don't know yet, but the whole idea of an arranged marriage is something that I think a lot of us are not aware of. And I've done, my family has been, we come from a lineage of people who have that as an option. And I think that the idea of arranged marriage is about recognizing it's got to be a connection anyway, personally. That's just my opinion. But I also think that we have to start looking at these options. And I think that when we start to really evaluate, as we keep going back to, the significance of family, you know, when I speak to my mum and her experience, and she speaks about, you know, people having to pay dowry, and, you know, you have to come here, but what are you bringing? Yeah, what are you and your family bringing? And I think that those discussions, even if we take it to present day, those discussions should still take place. There should be, and it shouldn't just limit in regards to, okay, it's just finances. It may just be about looking at your family and what you're doing with and how they've been developing and growing. But I think that is definitely a discussion that I think needs to be had, and for people to dig into it a little bit more, and understand about, even when we speak about polygamy, we speak about people understanding those sorts of things as well. Because I think that there's things that we don't necessarily understand from a perspective of it, right? And I think culture is so important. But when you understand the benefits of that, then you can actually see, this makes sense, that if we are lacking, especially when we're talking about numbers here, and we're talking about if there is a lack of numbers to do that, those men who are in a position to be able to take care of more than one family, do so. And that's where we're at. We're at that stage where I think we need to take these decisions. That's just my opinion. So,
Anyone else got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think for me, I think a lot of people go, ooh, arranged marriage. For me, arranged marriage means that the families come together and there is an exploration about whether we fit together to make one new unit to move forward. Because if we look at marriage in its historical context across different community groups, ethnicities, marriages have stopped wars, marriages have built nations, marriages have merged assets. So we're looking at it very much, I feel, as a community from an interpersonal, I love you, you love me, I'm attracted to you, etc., etc. But even things you spoke about, I've just forgotten now, but even things such as health. So if you're going to get together with somebody, and for example, their family has a history of depression with multiple people within that family, there needs to be an exploration about this before we join as family units. Because if you have two families that historically have depression on both sides, there is either a chemical or there is either an environmental issue that is going on which needs to be rectified. And we need to be able to be open and have these discussions. And I also think that many of us are just left to get on with it ourselves, pick the right partner ourselves. And as we know, for many different reasons, even when we've got a goal that we want to achieve, it's very challenging for us to even do the things that we say we want to do. So having that support, not necessarily someone telling you this is who you're going to marry, but that the family structures come together to assess your suitability with one another who are in an appropriate elder capacity. Because many of us have older people in our families, but they're not elders. So we need to be able to differentiate. And if we need to go outside of our blood relative family structures to find those people who can elder us and mentor us and teach us the right way to go, I think arranged marriage is the way to go for us to move forward. So we're not perpetually making these same decisions on the same basis that historically we've been taught to by environment.
I just want to add to that as well. I think environments are important. Where are children socialized? Because I think all marriages in some way are arranged, if that makes sense. I think that in environments, I remember going to Saturday schools. I remember going to places where there was environments where I would see people of my same age. And as we grow up, we get an identification with each other. I remember you. You know my mum. You know my auntie. You know my uncle. So it's always something that was in-house, if that makes sense, without sounding, you know what I mean. So, yeah? Sorry.
And it's something that we do now because we are very aware of the environments that we put our children in and what they're surrounded by, the type of people. So we are doing that, in a sense, to keep them aligned with what we feel is best for them.
Yeah. They don't know, though. That's the point. That's the point, you know?
Okay, before I go to the next question, has anyone else got something to say or question?
You want to take this one, sis? Give this one.
Greetings. I just want to build on it because in our organisation, MBPG, we have a lot of sisters around a lot of the time. And what I've been saying to them is, you people, I'm finding husbands for all of you. because essentially, you know, if we are leading the home as men in our community, I think it's important that our sisters are being led by men in the community. And what happens if a sister is here, is around us, is with this consciousness, if she goes and finds a husband that is got nothing to do with this, then effectively we could lose her. And we need to build families, we need to build homes up in this vein. So what I'm promoting everybody in here is, if you know a sister who's single, if you know a brother who's single, and you know that our values align, because everybody's here, values aligned on one thing at least, black love, right? You know, we know that we align like that. Let's encourage each other and let's set up those relationships if we can, because the truth is that, like I say, this journey that we're on, it's going to be a long one, and we need to build the families necessary. And you know, we all need a bit of help in this world. We don't know who's on side, and right now we have that environment. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay, the next question. Gender roles. Tradition over modern gender roles. How do you cope with them? Or does that even exist in your marriage?
All right, we'll go first. We tend to share the majority of things. What I mean by that? Now. What do you mean now? Now. Okay, now. All right, now. As in the last week. No, not really. No. I think the idea of an example would be, I shop 1 week, I cook 1 week. You shop 1 week, you cook that week. That's the sort of things where I don't have a problem with cooking, I don't have a problem with shopping. In regards to things that happen in the home, when we talk about gender roles, and this is an interesting one, because when we got together, we wasn't like, yeah, you know, we're real traditionalists, and you know, we're happy with that thing. But as time went on, it was like, well, hold on, honey, no. You know, and there were certain demands that said, no, well, I want you to do more of this or more of that. And it was a compromise where I realized, okay, I get that. But there are still things that are rigidly gender specific in our household. It just is. Yeah. So something broke down, me have to fix it. Yeah. Or we pay for it. Yeah. That's that collective thing again. But the reality is that my DIY skills had to become something that benefited us as a family. Yeah. But there's times when my wife will say, okay, I might be performing or doing something where I know that the primary carer for our child, our youngest, has been my wife, and she's taken it on board. But I don't take it as that's her role, because if she has to go and do something, that I would have to step in and do the same thing. So we're fluid with what it is, but we acknowledge that there's times where this is something that maybe as the man in the family, I'm going to take that on board. And as the woman in the family, you're going to take that on board. So it works for us. And I think it's also about strengths. Yeah, so my children, and I don't know where they get this from, right? But my children don't think I can cook as good as my wife, and I don't know where it come from. But the reality is that they would rather her cook than me cook. So there's certain times where if we're doing a function for the family, and most of the cooking is being done, my wife will tend to do those sorts of things. So there's things that we feel, well, if you're better suited for that, you do that. Yeah, but there's also things that we've traded, right? We've traded skills where my wife was one of the only ones out of her friends that could deal with her own car. So when her car broke down, she was able to deal with it herself because of what things that we had learned from each other. And I think that's also important as well in terms of sharing those roles and understanding that we can both do. Yeah, so.
I don't have much to add on this one, to be honest, right? A lot of what Amin said is really the same for us. It's really about that communication. Yes, there's certain aspects where I am man and my wife is woman, and there's certain things that that are traditional in how we deal with things. But it's quite funny because you're talking about the cooking, right? So the kids have me as the cook now, right? Because I'm the cook in the house. The kids. So they've chosen me to do that, right? But it's quite interesting, I think, when you're looking at these really binary terms of like traditional and modernity. Again, we have to look at where those terms are coming from, and we're in a society. Again, we're looking at the colonial, the empire, the structural racist society, where their own understanding of what it deems to be traditional and modern are totally different from our experience in history. So, for example, we know how many people have come from in a room where men in the Caribbean, even in some West African countries, they cook. They're known to cook. They are the chefs, right? It's not deemed a woman's job to cook. So it's and in some cases a case that there's no expectation for the woman to be in the kitchen. The man's dealing with that, either barbecue or whatever they're dealing with. So I think there's a lot to be said about compromise, understanding strengths, understanding about what we're building, and having discussions as well. And it's such a broad question. I mean, you could even take it to, and I know we don't have time, but I think you do take it to where in this society, the definition of men and their functionality is only based on their income. And in our society, it is not that, at least, from our discussions, as from what I know. But when you just start basing a man and their usability or functionality on what they earn, and if they don't earn a certain amount, that they're no longer useful, then that causes a problem for us in our relationships, because we already know that when you're looking at the current educational structure and how things have changed, at least in the last 20, 30 years, we're seeing where many of our sisters are being more successful through the educational system here. They're being promoted faster than our male counterparts here, and they're earning oftentimes more than us. And that's a credit to all of our sisters here. But it's not getting it twisted that, okay, because someone's earning power maybe more than our brothers, then that has changed the male and female's role. We still have a complementarity in terms of our relationships. And so we have to be quite careful, again, when we're hearing terms, but they're not necessarily defined for our purpose, understanding what does equality actually mean for us. Because maybe that word equality is not what we're thinking that is being used as. Maybe we should be using something else that benefits us.
We've been very flexible. I just think it's, as I said, it's very unique. And I think the more you're intimate, the more intimacy you create in your relationship, you can go on and do things. You can be ready to change and adapt and do what you need to do to bring your household and your home to its highest possible, way of being, and for it to function well. I think I'll do what it takes to make my home balance and everything. I'm not shy of doing many things. I'm a babe. I cook, I wash.
I do some bits.
He doesn't do anything. No, he does. He does a lot. He does a lot. So yeah, we don't really have strict roles, and I think it's good to stay flexible and teachable. I even like to learn things that I don't normally do, because as I said, we might not feel like doing our normal roles, and it's nice to be able to, tell your partner that, and then to understand that, and not to be so rigid. Oh, you're the one that does that. No, if anybody's available and strong, do it, and we're like that. So I guess things get done. I've got an older daughter that lives with us, and so, she knows how the home runs, so she feels in time. We're really blessed. And then, we have 2 dependent sons. But yeah, it's not a strict routine, and I love it like that actually, because we just like to be how we like to be when we like to be it. And it's nice to be able to, express yourself and not feel trapped. Sometimes the daily routine can be quite trapping. It can be, I don't like to cook every day. And I love the fact that we've got Friday, we call it the Ben Johnson Day or the day of relief, whatever you call it. But I love that. And I just look forward to say, it's Friday. And sometimes I have a Thursday when I'm ready. Yeah. And yeah. And if we want to have a takeaway or we want to go out, it's flexible. If he doesn't take the bin out fast enough, it's okay. I'll take it out. Whatever. Whatever I feel strong enough to do, I will do. And whatever he feels strong enough to do, I know he will do for the family. And that's what's lovely about it. That's what's freeing. And that's what makes it work. Wonderful.
I was just going to quickly add to that word flexibility is really, really important, and I learned that really late. Because I used to, when we first met, and I always remember this, it was really, really painful for me to do those rigid things, because I kind of expected Terry to do most of the cooking, the shopping, and I would really get frustrated when I was wasting my time doing those things, because I had so much more to get on with. Yeah, I had so much more to get on with in life. So I used to argue with her, stood in Tesco and say, this is ridiculous. This is why you're reading the labels, yeah? No one reads the labels. And we had murders until I became, we had murders until I became flexible. So now, she doesn't have to ask me to go because I realize it's less painful if you just go. So now I just be quiet. Honestly, I call it reframing. There's lots of things that you would expect her to do in a relationship that I do anyway. You know, you joked about the bins, but every Sunday I know that I'm out round the back doing the bins, dumping it over the neighbour's yard. I'm doing that, yeah? You don't have to do that. And that's kind of where we're at in our house. Everything's about flexibility, but it doesn't come easy. It happens over time. And like I think one of you said that it's almost like you get to an age in your relationship where you don't see it as a difference. Now, the only thing I'm not a good cook. So that's where you do all the good cooking stuff. But anything else that needs to be done in the house, we share it. Yeah?
Brilliant.
Okay.
Well, listen, guys, we have to wrap up for time. But I don't know about you guys, but has anyone actually got any other feedback or comments or questions they want to ask? Don't be shy. Okay. Oh. No, say it on the microphone so everyone can hear.
I'm very, very happy to see the collection of knowledge you've shared and your experiences, and we're led to believe this doesn't exist. So for me, I'm overjoyed. It's made my night. I'm good. Give thanks. Give thanks.
And I just want to say, at the very beginning when Tony was doing his exercise, there was a woman that said, when she sees black couples, she says, Black love. And I think that's what we all should do. When we see it, we champion it, we cheer it on, because it's difficult behind the scenes. They're raising children. We're raising children. But to help the couples to do that as well is so important. So now...
Any more questions?
Everyone just kept their hands
shy.
down.
Just taking in the information. Okay.
Black love.
Black
so
love.
for now, what we need is a little bit of feedback, and we need some proactiveness. So when you go home, you find the Thursday Club, you share the information, let other people who couldn't be here know what the benefits of coming to the Thursday Club is, but also what you learnt tonight. Share your experience. And don't only just go home and think that you'll remember it in your head. Write it down, get a journal, write it down, make it a memory, make it something that actually you can share with your future generations, or with other members of your family, or with the young people in your family. All this is so, so important. So thank you guys so much for your knowledge, your experience, your openness. It is greatly appreciated. Dr. Val, thank you again. It was amazing. Tony, we can't get started without you. So I think, what's the energy rate at the moment?
10.
Doesn't sound like it. What's the energy rate? What's the energy rate?
10.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to get a form from me, that's all I'm happy to say. Oh, for the development program for women. All right? If you would want to have a read.
Cool. So thank you.
Brother over there, Black Love Giving. Do you want to say something? Grab the mic.
Greetings all, love and guidance. I was just going to make a suggestion. I was thinking just a really, really good idea. If all couples maybe just get a picture, for you guys to just put forward
Thank
to,
you. I was going to do that, but you said it for me now. Thank you.
Just, so that depiction of black love is, what our community needs. Our children need to see it. They need to experience it. They need to feel it. And not just from the couples, but from all of us, as a collective community, just surround them by it, Imagine if we had so many of our young ones in the middle, it would be so beautiful. So just, thank you, Iola, for this event, and thank you for everyone for coming forward today, because this is what our community needs to heal. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for mentioning that, actually, brother, because I am starting, not me personally, this is how the Black Love works in the community. It's not just in terms of
romantic relationships. It's between communities, it's between organisations, it's between businesses. We've got, Money Mob here, Paul. We've got the, black independent businesses. We've got black people giving. We've got so many different Share Touch, Make My Day. So we've got so many businesses here, and it's about connecting. It's about working together and patronising each other's businesses, supporting. Actually, do you know what? Not even supporting, investing in one another. I really think there's a slight negative connotation that we've got now with this whole supporting. So let's invest in one another. And as the brother said, I would love to capture some images. So please, please, please do stand up couples for me, because we've actually got a campaign that I've started, as I said, with myself and two other beautiful sisters, Charmaine Simpson from Black History Studies and Miata from the TAP project in Manchester. And we're starting a project called Black Love Matters. And we've started it on our Facebook, because it does. And we started collecting images of you beautiful couples on our Facebook page, the Thursday Club Facebook page. And I've just asked you to basically please post your pictures in under the comments. We're collecting them. We're going to do a beautiful collage, a video collage. But wider than that, we're actually extending this so we can have more of a celebratory event. This is great because we really get to dig deep. We want to do definitely some more of this. Do we want to do some more of this? Yeah? Okay, but we also thought that we need something celebratory. So we're going to have a bigger event in the summertime where we can just come out and just the kids, the families, the couples, and just celebrate each other, So please look out for that. But in the meantime, if you're a couple, if you're committed, if you're married, I want to see your pictures on there. I'm going to share it again tonight and I'll send a link to it in the newsletter.
Iola.
Yes, Tony.
I'm a bit troubled by what you just said.
Oh, Lord.
Me being disobedient and I'm just thinking about other people. What if you're not a couple and, you're a man or you're a woman and you see another man and a woman and you want to take a picture with them to become a couple? Can we have some of that?
Okay, yes, definitely. If you know that you're single and the other person is single, take a picture with them. Absolutely. Thank you, Tony, for mentioning that. So maybe you want to get the singles to stand up first? No? Is that Okay, I'll put you on the spot. But it's a great idea, Tony. I'll leave that over to you. But it takes time. Is this another exercise, Tony?
It'd be all women.
And they're like, we're going to put on some music because we finished 5 minutes early. Put some music and everybody can do their thing. But yeah, couples, definitely, we want to see you. We want to see that Black Love Matters. We want to see your beautiful faces in a couple. So please do show me your faces, show me your hands, and I'm going to take some pictures of you here now so I can post it myself. But yeah, absolutely brilliant night. Thank you from my heart to yours, for the panel. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful representation. Thank you not just for being here, thank you for being you. Thank you for striving. Thank you for working it through. Thank you for putting yourself out there as you all do in your various businesses and respective ventures. So thank you for giving up your time and sharing that with us today. Thank you.
And can I just say one last thing? For the video, can we say, this is Black Love? 1, 2, 3.
This is Black Love.
Give yourself a round of applause.
Finally, thank you to Nicola, who looks absolutely amazing. It's been an amazing host. Thank you, Nicola. Can we give Nicola a round of applause, please? Okay, so we do need to be out here by 10:30. So, but if you want to patronise any of the stalls, please do so as you get ready to leave. But yeah, please do that.
And also, I've opened some bottles. If everybody can have a drink,
Oh yes.
They go home a little merry.
Yes,
at
please
least.
do
Anybody
help
who
yourselves
drinks.
to some Prosecco at the back. Please do take some drinks because they're all open. Please do drink. Thank you, everybody, and good night. Much love. Black love, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, darling. You were so great and on time.